Hello everyone, my name is Christine. Happy New Year! It is 2026. I cannot believe that we have been 6 years past COVID now. I know COVID is still among us, but it's been 6 years since our world was on lockdown, and there's just so much that we have been able to get past since then, in a time where it seemed like we were never going to be able to get out of, like what was going to happen next. So I'm just so excited for this new year, and in this new year I have wanted to just reflect on the things that I want to accomplish this year, the things that I want to set out to do. And I wanted to take a different approach. Usually I make a resolution or a new goal, and I want to do those things. I think that it's always a good opportunity to do those things. But this time, I really want to challenge myself to become more like Jesus in 2026. So last year, as 2025 was wrapping up, maybe like in September or August even, I remember coming to a standstill in my walk with God. I felt like I was getting bored. I felt like I was not growing anymore. I had kind of reached the peak of what I had set out to do for so long. I accomplished getting my career, getting married, having a baby, and asking God to be with me in these big, huge milestones that I was trying to achieve. And so now that my baby is now 1.5 years old, things have stabilized, and I just felt like I didn't know what was next. What more did I need God to help me with in my life? And so I was also tired of only seeking Him when I needed help with something. I really wanted to allow Him to move me and be with me and stay with me, even in the happy times, no matter what. I wanted to know what it felt like to truly depend on Him and to allow Him to work in my life. So that's what brings me to these goals. So after I prayed all of these concerns to God, God has really opened my eyes, and He's told me that He has heard my prayer. And since then, my relationship with Him has grown more than I could have imagined, and I only believe that more can even come from that. And that is what I want. The more that I seek Him, the more that I want Him, and the more I want this relationship to grow. If there's still room to grow, then that's what I want, and I want to seek that. So that brings me to my 2026 goals and resolutions for this year. So I want them to be focused on God and becoming more like Jesus, becoming closer in my walk with Him, and setting out to be who He has called me to be, who He wants me to be, so that I can ultimately get the most out of this life and work towards His kingdom. That is the ultimate goal in life, the biggest goal that I could ever achieve. And so if I worked hard for everything else that I've accomplished so far, then this should be the thing that I work the hardest on to accomplish. And, that's not to say that it's up to me and my works. Jesus is the one who is saving us. It's through His grace that we're able to be saved. But even with that, I just want to focus on how can I have an even better relationship with Him, and to just truly live life abundantly and fully, because I know that the only way to do that is to walk with Him and grow closer to Him. And so that's what I'm set out to do. So I just wanted to share that in case anyone else is on this journey that wants to come along and also share their experience in what they're trying to do to walk with God this year. So the first goal for 2026 and resolution is that I want to spend time with God daily, even when times get busy or hard. So there will be periods in my life where I will be spending time with God daily, and all of a sudden something kind of comes up that takes me out of that routine. either I'm going on a trip or a big project or event that I'm planning comes up and it takes me all out of my element. Maybe something with my mental health, and I just feel like everything's out of whack. So even during these hard times or times that take me out of my routine, I want to make sure that I stay consistent with God. I don't want to allow me traveling or something busy coming up to take me out of that routine, because in these situations where we're getting taken out of our everyday usual, then that's when temptation can come up easily. That's when things can challenge my character and allow me to maybe do something or respond in a way that's not in line with God and who He's calling me to be. So I just want to be prepared in all situations, no matter what season of life. And that starts with spending time with Him. And I don't want to keep having these different occasions in life taking me off track and then me having to get back into routine once that season is over. So that is goal number 1. Spending time with Him, my relationship with Him is foundation to everything that I do. And I know that, and so that's what I want to prioritize in this year. So number 2, after God, putting my marriage as the second, number 2. So fitting. So for my marriage with my husband, after we had our baby, then my attention obviously turned a lot towards my baby, taking care of her. I was breastfeeding, and so I was sleep deprived, so there were things in our marriage that we weren't able to commit to spending as much time together as we used to. And so in 2026, I have realized how important it is to fill up that tank in our marriage. It is the foundation in our on this earth. After God, it is the foundation to me and my husband and my baby. She's good when her parents are good. So in that, I want to honor God by loving my husband and being the best wife that I can be. And so that starts with doing monthly date nights. I believe that that is something we need to prioritize. It has been challenging because we, different finance situations. After having the baby, we were figuring out that, but things thankfully have stabilized since then. And so I do want to prioritize having a monthly date night, even if that means us just staying in and playing games or watching a movie together. Ideally, I'd like to go out once a month, but as long as we do something together once a month, if not once a week, would be best. Every Saturday night, but it doesn't have to be so rigid like that, but at least once a month. So second to that, this one's more important, is to have time with God together. So me and my husband, we're pretty good about having our own separate devotions and time with God, but something that we've been working on since we got married is to have consistent time with God together. So reading the Bible together, having devotions together, and praying together, worshiping together, the two of us. Also with our baby is wonderful as well, but something that's really going to help us grow together, to have God and the Holy Spirit enter our marriage and to have us just be on similar terms, equally yoked, and understanding what we're doing together to grow, to be more like-minded, and to have the Holy Spirit just lead in our marriage. So I feel like that is just so important, and we used to be more consistent with that, especially when we were dating. But since we got married, for some reason, we've fallen off. So definitely need to get back into that, and he is on the same page with me as that. So that's number 2. Okay, so number 3 is I want to work on being a better homemaker. So as I'm a career-oriented woman, so growing up, I was always thinking about pursuing my career, how I wanted to go to grad school and be a health professional. And I prioritized that a lot over the years. And I didn't necessarily pick up the best homemaking skills because of that. I was so focused on pursuing my career, studying, working hard. Now that I'm married, I realize that I cannot allow that to go on. I mean, of course, it's great to be career oriented, but especially as I've had my daughter, I value so much in putting into my family, putting into my daughter, putting into my husband, this household. It is something that I truly believe that God has called us to do, is to not just be so career focused, but to realize that that families are what's really going to have the biggest impact on whether or not we make it into the kingdom, and whether our children make it into the kingdom, whether those around us who are, you know, learning from us, watching us, or, you know, just impacted by us in some way. Like, I truly believe that it starts with the family unit, and I want to pour into that. I know that the world is very much right now like woman empowerment, and I appreciate that so much. That is always what I have set out to do and to live by. But I think that it often gets neglected on how empowering it is to be a skillful wife, mother, in the homemaker. That it takes a lot of skill to do those things. It takes a lot of work, effort, time, knowledge, and I didn't always understand that. It's not something I ever wanted to care or focus on, because I thought like I didn't want to be like that woman that focused on those things. But just how arrogant that was of me to think that way, because now I realize how important it is, and that my family could use some of that. And that is my mission for 2026, is to prioritize that, because I truly believe that a well-kept home and cleaning, cooking, all of those things is inviting to the Holy Spirit into your home. It allows other people to also come into your home and to feel invited. And so that is something that I really want to prioritize this year. Number 4 is prepare for the Sabbath. So I grew up honoring the Sabbath. It is one of the 10 commandments. So it's very important to God. He chose it as one of the commandments. And so that is something that I have always tried to have in my life. You know, over the years, it's been up and down as far as how much I honor it and how much I truly find rest in it. The Sabbath was made for man so that we have rest. It's a gift from God ultimately. And so over the years, I have rested. I have stopped working. I've always been pretty good at that, not working on the Sabbath. But there's times where I just maybe do a little too much, maybe cooking, or if I didn't get to a certain thing that's not technically like job related, but maybe still work, like I'll still do it. And my husband actually has brought it to my attention. I think he grew up preparing for the Sabbath, and to him that meant ironing his clothes before the Sabbath, cooking before the Sabbath, just doing as much of the work that you'll need to have on Sabbath, but doing it the day before instead of on Sabbath. That way you can truly enjoy the rest that Sabbath was meant for. And that's how it was done in the Bible days. And that's how the Jews would do it and still do it. And so that is something that I want to try, because I did try it with him, and it really did make the Sabbath just that much more enjoyable, just to have full rest. And I always love it when I meal prep ahead of time and I just naturally have food left over on the Sabbath, where I don't have to cook on the Sabbath. It allows me to fully rest. So that's something that I want to try. So we honor the Sabbath starting just the way that in the Bible days that they do it, and the way that I believe that God intended for us to do it is to start the Sabbath Friday at sunset. So right now that's like about 5 p.m. in California. And then it ends the next day, Saturday at sunset, again around 5 p.m. So you get a 24-hour period. And so that would mean preparing for the Sabbath on Friday. Since I'm working on Friday, I only have an hour and a half from the time I get home from work before sunset to prepare. So sometimes I'll start preparing Thursday, just start cooking on Thursday. That way I have some food left over on Saturday. But things like ironing, like my husband will do that on Friday afternoon. And then anything really that's work related, for him, even giving our daughter a bath, he considers as work. So he is starting to do that on Fridays instead of the Sabbath, Friday afternoons. So that's something that I want to do just because I want to fully enjoy the Sabbath the way that God intended for us to enjoy it, and just really get the most out of it. God, he emphasized rest. It's important for us, and I just want to know what it feels like to fully enjoy his Sabbath that he gave to us, and just appreciate it, because let me tell you, I do love the Sabbath. I love every week when I get to put off my work and shut away from the world and focus on this rest day. Number 5. So this one I'm pretty excited about. This one is going to be letting the Holy Spirit lead me and just having the courage to follow. So it scares me a little bit. That's why I have to add that having the courage to follow part. I feel like there's times where the Holy Spirit has kind of nudged me, like, hey, like, you should offer prayer for this person. I had a patient recently where she had some pretty disheartening news come up about her health, and I wanted to offer prayer for her. I felt like the Holy Spirit was telling me to. I was a little around the bush about it, and I just said, oh, like, do you pray? Like, is that something you do? And she basically said no, she doesn't believe in that. She doesn't, that's not her thing. And, instead of asking if she does, like, I could have just said, would you like me to pray for you? And maybe she would have said no, but also maybe she would have said yes. And if she says no, that's the part that scares me, but also not knowing what to say for the prayer, because I don't always feel like I'm a confident prayer. But that's something that I don't think any of us should be afraid of. Praying is just talking to God, and I pray every day, just me and God. Like, why would I be ashamed to do that with someone else? Especially if it's going to help bring them closer to God. And so that's something that I just want to step out of my comfort zone and just let the Holy Spirit lead me, and for me to actually follow suit when I feel that little nudge from the Holy Spirit. And I just want to be used by him, by God, in whatever way that he has planned for me. I want his kingdom to come. I want Jesus' second coming to happen, and I just want to be a part of being used by him in whatever capacity that he sees fit. for me in any way that he can use me. I just want to honor him. I feel like a lot of my goals up to this point have been so centered around my own goals, worldly goals, career. Like I was saying, it was a huge one for a long time. I used to say, like, I didn't even want to get married or have kids until all of that was accomplished, and that's great. That's actually a great strategy, but it doesn't have to be that way. I just, my mind shift has changed from just wanting to be so successful, I guess, to just being, just building up my riches in heaven. And that's what the Bible talks about, is to not build your wealth in this world, but to build your riches in heaven. And I will put the correct Bible verse about that, but that is just what I want to focus on. I don't know what other goals to have. Of course I have still worldly goals. Like I want to have a house one day for my family, you know, like those things are okay. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just that for me to really put my all into something like I did pursuing my career, I want to focus that energy. Like, what would it look like to give my all to pursuing God and pursuing his kingdom and trying to bring as many souls with me on that journey and just win as many souls for his kingdom as possible. Like, what would that look like? That is what I believe this whole world is about, is to fight the devil and to make it to the end, to live with God for eternity. So 2026, that's what I want to focus on, and I just want him to continue to refine my character, for me to be aware of what things I still need to work on, and I feel like he's been doing that. And I just pray that all of us can grow this year to be closer to him, to be more like him, and to bring as many souls to him as possible, to step out with the Holy Spirit in faith, have courage, and to not be afraid to represent him and to show the world who he is. So I hope you will join me on this journey. My baby just woke up from her nap, so I'm gonna go get her. Happy New Year. I will talk to you soon, and in the meantime, remember to stay kingdom bound. Bye guys.